Good evening and welcome to Newton Talk. My name is Jackie Morrissey, and tonight's very special guest is Geoff Epstein. He's a candidate for Ward 1 School Committee, and you can read all about him here in the Newton tab. He's got one of the guest columnists along with his opponent, and he's been working hard. He's out there. I've seen him out there working weekends. How you doing, Geoff?
Oh, I'm doing just great, thanks.
Good.
Thanks for having me here.
How's the campaign going?
It's great. It's really different from 2 years ago because I had the advantage of that experience, and then you know what to expect.
People
plan better.
People know you too.
Yeah.
I see a lot of your signs. I see them in very, very unusual places.
Yeah.
That's
well,
good.
it's all over the place. We got not a lot of people, are involved. A small number because we're not like a big political network.
Let me tell you something. I've been politically active for the last 40 years in this town. I know where the signs go. It's usually people that are on the Democratic City Committee or the Republican City Committee. Your signs are in private homes that are people that haven't been involved. Or
oh, right. Yeah, we get new places all the time.
All kinds of new houses with your signs up, and that says something.
Right. Well, it's a different network, you see.
Yeah.
It's like I have this guy who's a mathematician whose children are in the ward school, and he and I got to know each other when I was working on some math stuff relating to Stanford children and what were the issues in the city. That didn't work out, but we stayed in touch. And so I got in contact with him in relation to this effort. And so he said, great, because he remembered me from that time. And so he's been activating his network of friends and so on around Newton. So he's getting yard signs in places that are quite different.
That's your issue, is technology.
Well, it's math and science is the fundamental thing, which really comes from the national strategic need that we see for that.
And you're well known in that community.
Well, there's a lot of mathematicians and scientists I don't know.
But they know,
right.
They know you.
But they know the issue.
They
and
know
also,
you because they see your signs out there. They see you,
right.
And they're putting up signs.
Right, and I've reached out to those folks. I've reached out to those folks, particularly.
It's a very healthy campaign you're running. So how's it going? How do you feel?
Well, the intelligence we have, and of course we have no tracking polls or anything like that, is that it's a very close race. Yeah. And so if that means the following thing, if you do the math, there's about 10 to 12,000 votes involved here. And so if we're within 1%, then that's about 100 or 120 votes. So it could be very close. So the effort by individuals to get out the vote is really important.
Yeah, now you've got some very key areas. I would imagine like Ward 3, there's a Ward Alderman fight there.
Right, and the
Ward 5.
Yeah.
Any place else?
Well, there are races in 8 and 1, but I think in 3 there's great interest because we've got Ted Hess-Mahan and Leslie Berg against Greer, Terence Weston, and that's a very hot contest. We've in Ward 5 got Bill Brandel and Christine Samuelson, which is a very hot contest. So the vote is going to be out in those wards for sure.
Yeah, but in Ward 3 you got Salvucci against
Anatole Zuckerman, right.
So that they'll bring out. That's where the vote's going to come from.
A lot of votes there, but then the voter-rich wards also 6 always votes a lot. So even though there's not a race there, that's an important one. 8 has a race, 1 has a race, so I think 1 there'll be a lot of voting coming up.
Yeah, so Bobby Conley's trying to get my attention here. What's up, Bobby? Huh?
His beard's rubbing on the mic.
Oh, your beard's rubbing on the mic.
My beard is rubbing on the mic.
Okay, thank you,
all right, so we'll try.
We're amateurs here, so we
will work on that intelligence and try and.
There's no union contracts here, Bob. You can tell. You can speak.
All right, so I kind of lift my head up and I kind of look down my nose at you a bit.
That's okay. Now I lost my place here. Where I was going to ask.
We're talking about the ward fights.
Yeah.
And
the ward fights are very important.
Right.
So you're the only school committee contender, aren't you?
Right, and it's. There's a history. It's really interesting. I was out at the Angier Festival on Saturday a couple of weeks ago, or Sunday, and talking to someone who'd been in Newton 30 years ago, and he said 30 years ago when they had a school committee race, there were 44 people involved, 44 people. And so you look at this race, 1 seat contested, and why is that? It's a very difficult thing to do.
Have you figured it out?
Yeah, well, people told me at the start I was crazy to be doing it, but I felt it was really important.
I'll tell you what it is, and it's very, very, it's almost criminal what they've done over the few. They pick people to run. The school committee picks people to run.
Right.
They go out there, they get that guy, nobody even knows him. You know what I mean? They picked him, and they plan these things.
Right, well, it's kind of like a natural result of having political parties that do stuff, right? And whenever you've got an election, if you've got a local political party in town, whether it's Republican or Democrat, they'll tend to get involved. So they've gotten involved, and they have been involved in this for, someone was telling me, about 30 years now. And
things haven't been, believe me, the overall, I don't care what the public relations department says about the school system and the schools and the way they're being run. I'll tell you one thing right now. This is my opinion, not your opinion, and you'll probably be offended at me saying it. I think Geoff Young ought to be fired.
Yeah, well, I know you keep on saying this.
But right. I mean, how can you, well, you're the candidate. Well, how do you find the overall infrastructure of the schools?
The infrastructure pertains to multiple things. It's the buildings, it's the classrooms, they're the primary things, what goes on in the classroom, and so on. So it's like the educational infrastructure, what's the state of math and science and social studies and all those other things. So there's a whole lot of what you'd call infrastructure issues.
Yeah, now, let me ask you this. Wouldn't planning have a lot to do with that?
Yeah.
How do you explain all these modular classrooms?
Well, that's the building problem.
That's poor planning.
Yeah, right. So we've suffered from that.
I'm not alone. Right. I don't know what the guy's doing. I don't want to keep on him because I know you're sensitive about this. And but the thing is, you see it as a resolvable situation. I'll tell you something. I don't know how he gets away with it.
Well, I look at this thing strategically, and that is, you know, Geoff Young came at a certain year. He'll go at a certain year. But the whole thing is, who is looking down the road here? And it should be all of us. And in this election particularly, we should be asking the question, where are we headed? And that might pertain to the staff we have, the buildings we have, where we're putting money and so on. But the most important thing is, in this election of all of them, we're about to decide whether we're going to look to strengthening our school system or not.
What's your vision for the future of schools?
Okay. Well, I think we have some really good strategic advice coming to us from the federal level and from what we see around us. Okay, we've got global warming, all that stuff. We know that we're in what is a science-related crisis. Okay, our industries have created this. Since we started the Industrial Revolution, we're set out on this path. Okay, people warned us 30 years ago we're going to get into this trouble. Most people ignored them, and now we're in it. So we better be well educated in science and good at engineering to try and cope with this crisis. Okay, the other thing is we're threatened economically by China and India. And China will draw even with us economically in about 5 to 7 years. So what will happen then, we are going to be in the battle of our lives to stay ahead technologically. And there's complete agreement at the federal level that the US faces a strategic problem of not being strong enough in math and science and engineering and technology if we keep on the way we are. So we don't actually have to do and reinvent strategic planning. The strategic planning has been done at the federal level, and we can follow it. And we say, okay, they're telling us math and science is important. Other subjects are too, but they're really important. And what can we do locally to address that? And that's one of the fundamental planks of my campaign. And that's a really, really important thing. I think parents, every resident of this city should be asking themselves, what are we doing about that? Should our school committee reflect the importance of math and science? Should our educational system be known for it? And if the answer is yes to those questions, they should vote for me, because that's what my main thrust is. Yeah. There are other pieces, but that's the primary leading edge of it.